Hi, myself Y Nitish Kumar from ITA section. My topic for concept video for Python is list comprehension. A list comprehension is a syntactic construct available in some programming languages for creating a list based on existing lists. It follows the form of the mathematical set builder notation as distinct from the use of map and filter functions. The list comprehension has the same syntactic components to represent generation of a list in order form, an input list or iterator, a variable representing members of an input list, an optional predicate expression, and an output expression producing members of the output list from members of the input iterable that satisfy the predicate. The order of generation of members of the output list is based on the order of items in the input. List comprehensions queue results in a defined order, and list comprehensions may generate the members of a list in order rather than produce the entirety of the list, thus allowing, for example, the previous Haskell definition of members of an infinite list. The existence of related constructs predates the use of the term list comprehension. The set L programming language has a set formation construct which is similar to list comprehension. Example, this code prints all prime numbers from 2 to n. Parallel list comprehension. The Glasgow Haskell compiler has an extension called parallel list comprehension, also known as zip comprehension, that permits multiple independent branches of qualifiers within the list comprehension syntax, whereas qualifiers separated by commas are dependent. Qualifier branches separated by pipes are evaluated in parallel. This does not refer to any form of multi-readiness. It merely means that the branches are different. Xquery and Xpert. Like the original NPL use, these are fundamentally database access languages. This definition seems to only make sense if you already know what a list comprehension is. In which case, why would you be looking up the definition? Let me take it apart to try and demonstrate what I mean. In programming languages, list comprehension is a construct for list processing analogs to the set builder notation. That is the mathematical notation such as the following. Okay, so it's a construct for list processing that seem to be categorizing it, not explaining it, and it's analogous to the set builder notation. So we have said that it's similar to set comprehension. List comprehensions are a construct for list processing that is similar to set comprehensions. I am equally lost in trying to understand the difference between list comprehension and a function. It seems to me that almost every example language a few look so aligned that I can't comment, thus not show native support for list comprehension. Rather, the examples show how to perform list comprehension with the language's existing syntax. A particularly good example of this is the C as example. That's just a query against a set with some operation on the elements which satisfy the query. Translation into list functions. I am not a Haskell programmer, but have read several programming languages. I cannot see what this section is. The article is about. I think it should be made more general or deleted if all it is in BNF for Haskell's list comprehension syntax, infinite lists, and the introduction. Haskell seems to not create a list, but to just create something that will iterate over the members of what would be the list, thus allowing the use of unbounded ranges. The introduction seems to say that a list is produced, which is not the same thing. Python uses two separate terms here. List comprehensions that create lists and so must be bounded in size, and generator comprehensions which yield successive members of what would be the list when iterated over. I can't think of a rewarding of the opening paragraph at the moment, but intermediate lists are not necessarily generated. అదే సైలెంట్ ఉండి పాస్ చేసిన ఇంకా 3 స్లైడ్లు అయిపోతుంది 2 నిమిషాలు అదే సైలెంట్ అరే రే small talk and programming basis. I am waiting for. Arey, अरे वो सुन लिया दीपू को सुन लिए लगे काटा अपन तो लगा मोटा say that smart talk IT select is a filter and that the collect message is not an LC. What else could explain this very basic history of LC in programming languages? Is this about a name for a formal function or mapping or transform or a practice as implemented in the programming languages of an applied science? If you have doubts, see the minimalist changes to small talk in Seaside that you the take blocks to contain continuations and then Quark small talk does not have continuations. But in practice, Smalltalk is a programming environment, not a language definition. For a useful comparison, look at the impact of genome studies on the previous hierarchies in botany, where one standpoint is forced to give way to another. A list comprehension is a concept available in some computer programming languages that allows the creation of lists from other lists. User set building notation to allow this functionality in an intuitive and elegant way. Set building notation is a way of describing new sets as a relationship to an existing set. This relationship can have function by which the incoming set is changed and a predicate that filters the incoming set. List comprehensions are used in a variety of languages. They are most often found in functional languages like Haskell and Scala and in scripting languages like Python and Perl. They are typically faster than other methods of building lists such as for loops. Plus, they are more compact in their notation, typically easier to read and more elegant. Set builders, there are four parts. The output expression, which here is defines the function performed on the incoming element before it is added to the new set. The variable XX defines the variable name so that it can be notated in other parts. The input set defines where we are getting the elements from. The predicate defines any logical parameter by which input elements are filtered and it is typically optional. Any element from the input set that evaluates to true in the predicate will be included in the output set. List comprehension is a special syntax in some performing languages to describe this. It is similar to the way mathematicians describe sets. Set comprehension, here is the name. Some attributes of a list comprehension are they should be distinct from for loops and the use of map and filter functions within the syntax of the language. They should return either a list or an iterator, something that returns successive members of a collection in order. The syntax has paths corresponding to that of set builder notation. List comprehension in Python is an easy and compact syntax for creating the list from a string or another list. It is a very concise way to create a new list by performing an operation on each item in the existing list. List comprehension is considerably faster than processing a list using the for loop. Thank you. This is my presentation for Python.